Ma'am, you're listed as the responsible party for Parcel 47? The farmer wiped her hands on her canvas apron, not moving from her spot on the porch steps. I own this home. That land out there? She moved her chin toward the fields. Been feeding families since my great-grandfather broke ground with his own two hands. The black SUVs crunched to a stop in the gravel driveway. Three people came out, their polished boots crunching on the farm's dirt driveway. The lead officer removed his mirrored sunglasses with deliberate slowness. The second officer tapped his tablet screen. Violation codes, unauthorized fencing, obstructed easement, non-compliance with transition plan. She crossed her arms, the morning sun catching the sweat on her brow. Nothing voluntary about your plan. I never signed anything. The third officer smirked as he leaned against their vehicle. We know your husband's deployed. Might be easier to settle this quietly. Her knuckles whitened around the porch railing. That's supposed to scare me? The lead officer dropped a thick envelope at her feet. 30 days to comply. The crimson stamp bled through the paper. Or we enforce. She kicked dust onto the official notice. Your papers mean nothing here. When she reached for the shotgun leaning against the post, the second officer took an involuntary step back. Ma'am, threatening an officer. The shotgun's action racked with a metallic snap that echoed across the fields. This is me being polite. She kept the barrel leveled at their shiny shoes. Next visit, bring more than clipboards. The officers held her stare as they backed toward the vehicles. 30 days. His voice carried the weight of promised violence. Then we come with more than clipboards. She spat tobacco near their tire tracks, watching the dust settle on the county road. Looking forward to it, she kept the shotgun leveled until the SUVs disappeared down the county road, their dust trail blending with the storm clouds gathering on the horizon. I never thought I'd have to say this, but fake HOA officers stormed my land, demanding I sell it under a forged real estate listing they called a voluntary zoning transition. I called it what it really was, a land grab. They thought I was alone, vulnerable, easy to push. What they didn't know was that a former Marine was about to turn their little scheme upside down. Let me take you back to the start. It was a quiet afternoon, the kind where you hear nothing but the breeze and the soft rustle of wheat. I was out back, feeding the goats, when I heard the crunch of boots on gravel. I came around the house and found three men already on my porch like they owned it. No knock, no courtesy, just dark tactical uniforms, blank badges, and those boots that scream, "We're not here to ask." The leader, a wiry guy with aviator sunglasses and a clipboard, tapped on my screen door with a pen. You the owner of Parcel 47? He asked, voice flat, clipped. My gut twisted, but I kept my tone calm. You mean my home? He didn't smile, just adjusted his shades like I'd insulted the natural order. We're with the Crestview Preservation Authority, here on compliance enforcement. It sounded official, but that name was about as real as their badges. The guy with the buzz cut stepped forward, voice monotone like he was reading off a script meant to scare. You're in violation of emergency zoning, illegal fencing, improper land division, obstruction of public access, and failure to comply with transition policy. I crossed my arms. This land's been in my family since 1923. We don't fall under Crestview or any HOA. Check the county deeds. The tall one leaned in close, smirking. We know your husband's still overseas, he said softly. My heart slammed in my chest. Careful where that sentence goes, I warned. My voice steady even though my hands trembled behind the doorframe. He handed me a large manila envelope. You've got 30 days to vacate the southern field, or enforcement begins. Then they turned and walked back to their SUV. No license plates, just dark tint and the stench of something wrong. I stood there on the porch, unable to breathe, the envelope dangling from my fingers. When I finally stepped back inside, I shut the door and slid down the wall to the kitchen floor. My knees buckled, the fear rushing in. I hadn't felt like that since I was a kid, watching my dad, pale and shaking, sign away our first farm to men in suits who never looked him in the eye. Back then, I didn't understand, but I do now. This wasn't about violations. This was about power. I called the sheriff. He sighed before I even finished the first sentence. They've been targeting landowners all over the county, he said, using emergency zoning loopholes and shell corporations to push folks out. It's legal enough to pass a glance and illegal enough to stink. I hung up, my stomach in knots. That night I pulled out deeds, old survey maps, any proof I had. But it all felt like stalling, like taping a window in a hurricane. At 3 a.m., I sent Mark a message. Just 4 words, I need you home. No reply, just typing dots that faded into silence. By morning, my southern pasture was dotted with pink survey flags and neon stakes, all tagged with Crestview Authority, pending public use. They weren't threatening anymore. They were moving in. That's when Caleb showed up. My neighbor wearing camo pants, a flannel, Crocs, and a GoPro strapped to his forehead like he was filming a wildlife special. You see the flags? He asked, breathless. They rolled through at 2:41 a.m. 2 trucks, no lights, 1 drone. I caught it all. You were watching? I blinked. Course I was. Got files. HOA's been infiltrated. I let him ramble. Half of it was paranoia, half chilling truth. Caleb wasn't wrong. He was just early. That night around 2 a.m., I heard the crunch of footsteps again. No headlights, no voices, just presence. I grabbed the emergency phone and whispered, "They're here. They think I'm alone." But I wasn't. The door creaked open like it had been waiting. Mark stood there, duffel slung over his shoulder, mud on his boots, his eyes scanning every corner. "Where's your rifle?" he asked. "Closet," I whispered. He pulled it out, checked the chamber, then laid it on the kitchen table before looking at me. His eyes were calm, but behind them was the part of him that had survived fire zones and deserts. Battle mode. I told him everything about the fake officers, the threat, the sheriff's shoulder shrug. He flipped through the paperwork, jaw tightening. "This isn't paperwork," he muttered. "This is intimidation in 12-point font." The next morning, Caleb showed up with grainy thermal footage. Men crossing the fence at 2:38 a.m. One of them scoped the irrigation lines. "They're testing your response," Mark said, "seeing if you'll panic." "If I panic?" I asked. "They take everything." Caleb leaned in. "This is bigger than a Karen with a clipboard." "Shut up, Caleb," Mark snapped. But he didn't take his eyes off the screen. I stood, hands shaking. "You're home, but you're not even looking at me." Mark finally turned. "I'm looking at the threat. I held the line, Mark. I fed the animals. I pulled their damn flags, filed reports, didn't cry once. You know why? Because if I did, they'd win." He didn't answer, just looked down, ashamed. Then the explosion. It started with a crack, like bones snapping. Then a rush of flame that swallowed the barn in seconds. I ran barefoot toward the roar, gravel tearing into my feet. The animals were still inside. Mark tackled me to the ground. "You can't! They're in there!" I screamed, thrashing beneath him. "If you go in, I lose you too," he shouted, voice cracking. Then the propane tank blew. The shock wave sent us skidding across the dirt. Too late. The fire department muttered about accelerants. Suspicious. Just like the barns at Clearwater. And Lakemont. Always the ones who wouldn't sell. The next morning, I found another stake in the ashes. Neon orange. Second notice. Mark knelt beside me and pulled a crushed lens from the dirt. "They're watching," he said. "We wire this place and give them a war." I didn't get out of bed after that. At least not right away. Mark left water by the nightstand. Caleb paced in the kitchen, muttering about counterinsurgency and microwave jammers. 3 days passed before I finally stood up. Mark turned the living room into a command center. Wall maps, color-coded pins, folders labeled evidence, claims, and strike zones. Caleb rigged the property with GoPros, sensors, and an old baby monitor he called Surveillance HQ. We baited them with a fake listing, bad grammar, wrong coordinates, posted by Caleb's cousin, who once faked jury duty for a fishing trip. 6 hours later, an email. Elmry Revitalization Partners requesting access. They came at 10:13 a.m., 4 of them. 3 men in tight formation and a woman in a blazer. Lauren, polished, cold, confident. They paced the property line, unfazed by the scorched barn. Mark stepped out of the woods, calm, steady, unarmed. They froze. Lauren smiled. We were told this property was unclaimed. I stepped out behind Mark. You're trespassing. You've triggered motion sensors and you're being recorded. Mark added, you're casing, not assessing. One of the men, the younger one, with the scanner, backed up. I didn't sign up for arson or intimidation, he muttered, tossing his gear and walking away. Lauren's expression cracked. He's confused. Nothing illegal has occurred. Mark blocked her path. Explain what he just confessed. Her voice faltered. This is all a misunderstanding. She left without another word. No smile this time. That night we found a receipt tucked into the mailbox. Gas station. Timestamped tomorrow. Left like a calling card. Mark stared at it. They're coming back. With teeth. They did. At dawn. 2 SUVs. 6 men. Lauren. No more sunglasses. Just malice. I met them at the gate, clipboard in hand. Still playing soldier? She sneered. No, I said, I just like paperwork. Yours is fake. One man played a recording of me from earlier, trying to rattle me. You think you're the only one documenting? He smirked. I tilted my head. I'm the only one telling the truth. Mark handed over county records, fraudulent title transfers, fake signatures, zoning maps altered by hand, all tied back to Lauren's office. I tossed a flash drive at her boots. All of it on Reddit too. The scanner guy cracked again and left. Lauren's voice turned brittle. We'll see you in court. You won't get the chance, I said. Step on this land again, and you answer to more than just us. The SUVs peeled away. No threats, no smirks. That night, a box showed up on the porch. No label, just a photo. Me, Mark, and Caleb at the gate, smiling, taken from the trees. Inside, a single blank key in red ink across the photo. Next time, we don't knock. At 3:17 a.m., the wheat shifted. No wind, just a ripple. Something, or someone, big didn't care if I saw. 3 days passed. No movement. Too quiet. Mark rebuilt the barn, not to restore, but to remember. Caleb packed his drones and declared victory. I didn't correct him. Winning doesn't mean they're gone, just watching from farther away. A week later, the sheriff stopped by. He leaned on his cruiser and tipped his hat. County calls you the line no one crosses, he said. That night, Mark found me standing by the barn ruins, staring at the blackened dirt. Miss how it was? He asked. Only when it feels earned, I said. We bought goats, planted sunflowers, but I never trusted stillness again. 3 weeks later, a fresh orange stake stood in the south pasture. No label, no flag, just presence. A legal brief arrived in an unmarked envelope. No return address. It named me as defendant. Attached, a flyer, Elm Tree Phase 2, a community in bloom. Signed, Patrick Delaney, scrawled in red. We still know where you live. I walked to the porch, boots heavy with dirt, and unlaced them beside the door. I didn't wipe them off, didn't put them away, because the land keeps score, and I'd be ready when they came back. If this story moved, you don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful tales of resilience and justice. Your support allows us to keep delivering valuable insights and stories that inform and inspire people everywhere. Thank you for watching Work Story, and see you in the next one.